There's a new number 1 team this week, and if you're intrigued to see who that is along with the other 31 slots, you're in the right place. Let's dive into these Week 8 power rankings. For the third straight week, the Carolina Panthers are 32nd. They started the season in 19th and have yet to win a game. This was their bye week, so not much to say here. The Arizona Cardinals fall 2 spots to 31 this week, their lowest ranking since week 3. It's not the lowest one overall, as they were 32 for the first 3 weeks of the year. Arizona's offense is lost, which is what we all expected. Lucky for them, Kyler Murray is returning soon, and their defense isn't the worst thing I've ever seen. This defense is the worst thing I've ever seen. Moving up 1 spot this week, I have the Denver Broncos in 30th. Denver's defense is finally in sync, but I'm not trusting them enough yet. They aren't a good second half team, and that absolutely showed up against Green Bay. Nonetheless, a win puts them up a spot. In 29th this week, I have the Washington Commanders. This is a 3-spot decrease from last week and their lowest ranking since week 4. Jonathan Allen summed this up perfectly. 7 years, still no answers. Sam Howell isn't the answer at quarterback. I've been preaching this since the beginning of the season. And even with the solid defensive performance, the Commanders could not win their game against the New York Giants. The Las Vegas Raiders are down 4 spots to 28th this week. This is their lowest rank to date, and deservingly so. Here's what I said last week. I'm not a Jimmy Garoppolo believer, and Brian Hoyer will be just fine with this surround sound. I couldn't have been more wrong. Jimmy G needs to come back. He can't control the defense though, and that defensive performance was awful in week 7. The Raiders' week 7 opponent moved up 3 spots this week. The Chicago Bears have made their highest peak of the season and their largest movement of the season as well. I wasn't impressed with the offense as a whole, simply because the Raiders' defense just isn't great. But individuals made statements this week. Tyson Bagent, Deontay Foreman, and even on defense, Tremaine Edmonds had a great performance finally. This is a big statement blowout for Chicago. The New York Giants move up 1 spot to number 26 this week. This is their best ranking since week 3, where they were also 26th. The Giants defense has been working very hard these last couple of weeks, so props to them. And honestly, they're better off with Tyrod Taylor. They're on a hot streak, and they need to bring it this week against the Jets. After an impressive win over Buffalo, the New England Patriots are 25th this week. This is a 3-spot increase from last week and their first increase since week 3. How about New England last week? Bill Belichick gets his 300th win in great fashion. Mac Jones looked elite against a great defense, and the defense as well, they did their part in the first half. If the Patriots can keep this up, this could be a massive recovery this year. Titans are still 23 this week, bye week, blah blah blah, refer to week 7 for info. The New Orleans Saints are number 22 this week. This is down 1 spot from last week, and their second straight week moving down a single spot. The Saints aren't a terrible team. I wouldn't be surprised if they made their way to the NFC South title. I just can't trust Derek Carr in this offense, especially with all the checkdowns he's throwing to Kamara. You have an arm, Derek Carr. Please just use it. Moving down 4 spots this week, I have the Green Bay Packers. This is their lowest ranking of the season after their drop to 2-4. The Packers absolutely lost the momentum that they had at the beginning of the season, but I can't say that I didn't see this coming. Jordan Love's hype has died down just like I expected. While the defense is still playing well, the offense isn't doing their job, which contributes to their now 2-4 record. The Los Angeles Rams moved down 1 spot to number 20 this week. This is their second highest ranking of the year, only behind last week. The Rams had a solid offensive performance, but it wasn't enough to beat Pittsburgh. This is where my concern was in the preseason. Every game that this offense doesn't play exceptionally well, this team is going to lose. I was right about them in the preseason, but I switched my opinion to that they had potential this year. Clearly that's not showing anymore. After a loss, Tampa Bay falls to 19, down 1 spot from last week and down to their lowest ranking since week 5. The Bucs are no longer NFC South favorites, and Baker Mayfield is no longer a contender for the Comeback Player of the Year award that isn't named Damar Hamlin. The defense is a good one. but it's not good enough to elevate them to kind of the higher half of the rankings like the Jets or the Steelers, who don't have great offenses, but they do have great defenses. The Atlanta Falcons remain polarizing, this time moving up 4 spots to number 18. This is crazy, just given their trends. The Falcons won an away divisional game, which is key to their run for the playoffs. I'm still not too high on them, but they finally retain the NFC South title in my power rankings. The Minnesota Vikings jump up 3 spots after their upset win on Monday Night Football. This is their highest ranking since week 2 this season. The Vikings overall shocked me, and they confirmed 2 of my previous thoughts. 1, Kirk Cousins is legit a starting quarterback in the NFL, and the Vikings should not look elsewhere. And 2, if Brian Flores can improve his leadership capabilities, he is absolutely deserving of a head coaching job. The Houston Texans remain 16th this week. Not much to say after a bye, let's move on. After moving down to 2 and 4, the Los Angeles Chargers only moved down 2 this week to 15th. This is tied for their lowest spot of the season. This team is one of the best 2 and 4 teams I've ever seen. The talent on this roster is great. I just don't get how they can't step up and win more games. Brandon Staley is still absolutely on the hot seat. The Pittsburgh Steelers go up 1 spot after moving to 4 and 2. This is their first increase since my week 4 power rankings. Pittsburgh is putting themselves back on the map after a great defensive performance. I just have my concerns elsewhere. Matt Canada, the offensive line, the secondary, but during their wins, they continue to perform at high levels. Their losses have just been really ugly. Moving up 1 spot despite the bye, I have the New York Jets. This is their highest position since week 3. Not much to say, but the Chargers moving to 2 and 4 helps the Jets move up 1 spot. After comfortably defeating the Cardinals, the Seattle Seahawks remain in 12th this week. This is their 3rd straight week at 12, and their 5th straight week being 11th, 12th, or 13th. Seattle's offense has clearly taken a step back from last year, but despite that, this team is still damn good. The defense has taken steps up, and that's exactly what this team needed. Now, they must go back to that next step up on offense, and if they can do that, this team will find their first top 10 appearance of the season soon. On a bye week this week, the Cincinnati Bengals remain in 11th. Let's just move on. The biggest faller of the week is -5 for the 2nd straight week. Instead of it being the New England Patriots, it's their division rival, the Buffalo Bills, who barely stay inside of the top 10, but go to their lowest point of the season. Buffalo somehow lost to the team with the least amount of momentum in the NFL. I understand it's a division rival, I understand that they played them at home, but still, it's the New England Patriots. A game that they could not lose put them down 5 spots this week. Yet again, Dallas gets caught in the crossfire. They move down 1 spot to 9th place, their lowest point this season. Dallas is good. They're sitting at a solid 4 and 2, but I have to reward a great performance from a team that was below them. 2 teams that I have yet to mention leapfrog the Cowboys, and 1 team that I have mentioned, the Buffalo Bills, go below them. Somehow not the biggest tumble this week, the Detroit Lions come in 8th. Moving down 4 spots after their blowout loss to the Baltimore Ravens. The Lions clearly suck this week. No answers on defense for anything, and don't even get me started with Jared Goff's performance. Jahmyr Gibbs had a promising performance of his own, but that was all to love in this game. Up 3 spots this week are the Jacksonville Jaguars, sliding into 7th for their new peak this season. This comes after improving to 5 and 2. Jacksonville's offense took a few weeks to click, but they are continuing their momentum and continuing to rise. This Jaguars team is really good, and Travis Etienne is becoming a game changer in the NFL. Cleveland stays put in 6th this week after improving to 4 and 2 on the season. This is still their highest peak of the season. Cleveland had a massive scare against Indy on Sunday, and their defense finally gave out a bad performance. But what capitalized? The offense. The run game clicked very easily, and the Browns scored 39 points. Moving down 2 spots from week 7, the Miami Dolphins slot into 5. They are now 5 and 2, but they retain a top 5 spot for the 7th week in a row. I had Miami taking down Philly last week, but Philly put on a spectacular show. I had my verbal concerns with this Miami defense, and they finally showed their flaws over last week. On offense, they scored their lowest point total of the year. Miami needs to step up, or by next week they will be out of the top 5. Coming in fourth this week, I have the Baltimore Ravens. They improved to 5-2 after last week, moving up 5 spots from last week and reaching their highest ranking of the season. We all saw how elite Baltimore looked on Sunday, and even if Detroit had an off week, Baltimore went off. Lamar played like the MVP he used to be, the run game got clicked very early, and the defense just showed out. This is likely Mike Macdonald's last season as a coordinator. After dropping their second straight, the San Francisco 49ers are third this week. Their first week in my in-season rankings where they are not number 1. They just struggled. Purdy isn't doing his thing, and while the defense is playing well, Purdy needs to step up. Without McCaffrey at full health and without Debo in last week's game, Purdy isn't sticking up to standards. After a huge drop last week, they bring the biggest rise of the week, tied with Baltimore. The Philly Eagles are second this week, and a statement win over Miami puts them here. Last week's win will absolutely contribute to a heavy rise. I should have never put them down that low. Even then, I still do have my concerns. Miami's defense isn't great, and it is still just one game. But Week 7 was a hell of a way to capitalize off of a devastating Week 6 loss. Finally, coming back to number 1 for the first time since the preseason, the Kansas City Chiefs are number 1 in my power rankings. They moved to 6-1 and benefit from the 49ers loss on primetime. The Chiefs continue inching towards locking in number 1 status, and a win over the Chargers will really help that. No team in the NFL has allowed 21 points or less in every game this season except for Kansas City. And the offense is finally getting in its groove. Watch out again, NFL. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I have a Mock Draft Monday episode coming out on Monday, but more recently, this Friday I got a film study. If you're not subscribed, you're missing out. Once again, I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and thank you guys so much for choosing this channel as your source of sports coverage. I'll see you guys in the next video.